Welcome back to the deep dive. It is late February 2026 right now.
Which means we are looking ahead.
Exactly. We're looking ahead to March. And today we are doing something a little more targeted than usual. We are zooming in on a specific forecast that has been making the rounds for a very particular slice of our audience.
The Scorpios.
Yes, Scorpios. We've pulled a really comprehensive source detailing the March 2026 forecast for Scorpios. And I have to say, even if you aren't strictly into astrology, the themes we're going to unpack today regarding productivity, burnout, and habits are just objectively fascinating.
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal struggle. But for the Scorpios listening to this, the title of the source report is, well, it's intense.
It really is. The title is The Architect of the Soul.
The Architect of the Soul. It definitely sets a tone right out of the gate.
Right. I was looking over the notes earlier, and that phrase just kind of stopped me in my tracks. Because it feels heavy. It doesn't sound like that typical, you might meet someone cute at a coffee shop kind of horoscope.
No, not at all.
It sounds structural. It sounds like a lot of work.
It is work, but the source is clear that it is the exact kind of work Scorpios are uniquely suited for right now. When we analyze this material for March 2026, we are seeing a very distinct shift away from external drama.
Which is usually what people want from these forecasts.
Exactly. Usually you look at this stuff to see what is going to happen to you, like, will I get a raise? Am I going to get dumped? But this report suggests the transformation for you this month is entirely internal. It's happening in the mundane fabric of daily life.
The mundane fabric, you mean the grind?
The grind, yes.
Because I feel like most people, Scorpios included, are really just trying to survive the grind right now. Just getting through Tuesday is a win.
And that is exactly the stakes of this entire deep dive. The mission here today is to unpack how you can move from just surviving the day, that feeling of constantly treading water, to actually designing your existence.
Designing it.
Right. That is where the architect part comes in. An architect doesn't just, pile bricks up and cross their fingers hoping a wall doesn't fall down. They have a blueprint.
Okay, so let's look at the blueprint then. The source material highlights this historic cosmic event kicking off in March. We are seeing some major planetary shifts here. What's the actual headline?
So the headline is the ingress, the movement of two powerhouse planets, Saturn and Neptune. And they're both moving into the sign of Aries.
Okay.
Now, casually, that might just sound like another planetary movement.
Yeah.
But for Scorpios, this is happening directly in your sixth house.
I want to pause on the sixth house for a second, because in modern discussions, we always hear this described as the house of work and health. It sounds a bit like the chore wheel of the Zodiac.
The chore wheel. I like that.
But I've read that historically, the sixth house actually had a much darker reputation, didn't it?
That is a really great point to bring up. You are completely right. Ancient astrologers often referred to the sixth house as the house of bad fortune.
Wow. Bad fortune.
Yeah, or the house of servitude. It was where things went when they needed to be maintained or fixed. It wasn't about the glory of your career, which is the 10th house, or the romance and fun of the 5th house.
It was the grunt work.
It was the engine room. It was literally the place of servitude, illness, and drudgery.
Yikes. So Saturn and Neptune are moving into the house of drudgery. That does not sound like a fun March.
Well, we do have to reframe it for our modern context. Think of it as the engine room. If you ignore the engine room, the whole ship sinks. It represents your daily habits, your physical body, your service to others, and your daily schedule.
Okay, that makes sense.
And having Saturn enter this space, specifically in the fiery sign of Aries, is a very specific and somewhat aggressive directive from the cosmos.
Because Aries is the sign of I am, right? It's fire. It's rapid initiation.
Correct. Aries wants to go fast. It wants to start things immediately. But Saturn is the cosmic brake pedal.
Right, the taskmaster.
Exactly. Saturn is the lord of time, the principle of reality. So you have this intense tension. You have the drive to initiate, which is Aries, hitting the absolute wall of discipline, which is Saturn. And this is all happening right in the sector of your daily routine.
So if a Scorpio has been running their life on chaos energy, which, let's be honest, is a very Scorpio trait, they kind of thrive in the chaos.
They do.
Saturn is basically showing up with a clipboard and saying, shut it down.
Precisely. The source material literally uses the phrase Saturn brings discipline. But I think it's deeper than just forcing you to use a planner. Saturn reveals structural weakness.
Oh, that's a good way to put it.
If your work life is disorganized, or if you are burning the candle at both ends, Saturn in the sixth house isn't just going to nag you about it, it's going to force a halt.
That sounds suspiciously like burnout. Is the source saying Scorpios are destined to burn out this month?
Not destined, no. It's saying the potential for burnout is the mechanism of correction.
The mechanism of correction.
Right. The report says Saturn is here to help you build a fortress of efficiency. But you only build a fortress when you realize your current setup is completely vulnerable.
A fortress of efficiency. I have to be honest, that sounds a little cold. I mean, Scorpios are water signs. They are deeply emotional, intuitive creatures.
Very true.
If I am turning my life into a fortress of spreadsheets and rigid schedules, am I going to lose my soul in the process? How do you balance that?
That is the million-dollar question. And it brings us right to the second planet involved in this shift. Remember, it's not just Saturn making moves, it's Neptune.
Right, Neptune.
And Neptune is the polar opposite of Saturn.
Because Neptune is the dreamer, the mystic.
Exactly. Neptune is the principle of dissolution. It dissolves boundaries entirely. So picture this dynamic. You have Saturn trying to build rigid walls in your sixth house of daily routines. And at the exact same time, you have Neptune trying to turn those walls into mist.
That sounds like an absolute construction nightmare.
It creates a really fascinating tension. The source explains that because Neptune is involved, you cannot just be efficient for efficiency's sake anymore.
You can't just be a robot.
Exactly. It is no longer enough to just earn a paycheck or check boxes off a to-do list. The efficiency has to actually have a purpose. You are suddenly seeking deep meaning in your daily tasks. Scorpios are going to demand that their daily labor reflects their soul's purpose.
Okay, so it's not just I need to do the dishes. It's I need to do the dishes because a clean physical space allows my mind to be clear so I can focus on my art.
Yes, it dramatically raises the bar on why you do what you do. But here is the danger, and the source is very specific about giving a warning here.
What's the warning?
Because Neptune is inherently foggy, there is a major risk mid-month of just getting lost. The source explicitly warns of brain fog around the middle of March.
Oh, I hate that feeling.
Right. You might have this Saturn-driven urge to work hard and build a fortress, but the Neptune fog rolls in and makes you feel like you're wading through molasses.
And then you start questioning everything.
Exactly. You start asking, does any of this even matter? Why am I doing this?
And that is a really dangerous place for a Scorpio to be. That kind of existential dread can paralyze them. So what is the solution? If you are trying to build this structure, but the fog is actively rolling in, how do you actually function?
The source offers a highly practical remedy for this exact moment. It says grounding rituals are your best friend.
Grounding rituals.
Because the sixth house is so deeply tied to the physical body, you cannot solve this brain fog problem with your mind. Your mind is literally where the fog is located. You have to solve it with the physical body.
Which actually segues us perfectly into the next major section of the report. We really need to talk about the physical vessel.
Let's do it.
Because the sixth house governs health. And I feel like every single time we see the word health in a forecast, it's the exact same generic advice. Eat more kale, go for a run, drink water. But this source material seemed to have a completely different take on what health means right now.
It absolutely does. It states clearly that the physical vessel is demanding attention, but it explicitly warns against fad diets or quick physical fixes.
Right. And this brings us right back to Saturn, doesn't it?
It does.
Why does Saturn hate fad diets so much?
Because Saturn rules time and longevity. Specifically, Saturn has a roughly 29-year orbit around the sun. So a quarter of that cycle, which is essentially a season of Saturn, is about 7 years.
Okay.
The source asks a really confronting question for anyone looking to change their health routines this month. It asks, can you keep this habit up for the next 7 years?
7 years. Wow, that completely changes the perspective.
Doesn't it?
It really does. It's no longer, can I endure this intense juice cleanse for a month? It's, is this a sustainable way to live my life for nearly a decade?
It creates a massive, immediate filter for your choices. If you are contemplating a new health regime, and the mere thought of doing it for 7 years makes you miserable, then it is fundamentally the wrong change for this transit. Saturn wants sturdy, reliable habits. It wants you to respect the physical vessel for the long haul.
I see the value in that, but I have to say, it feels so heavy.
It is heavy.
It's a ton of pressure. Build a fortress. Commit for 7 years. Find your ultimate soul's purpose in your boring work emails. If I am a listener right now, I'm thinking, can I just take a nap? Is there literally any room for joy in March 2026? Or is it all just this serious architectural heavy lifting?
I'm so glad you asked that. Because if it were just Saturn dominating the sixth house, it really might just look like pure exhaustion or even depression.
Yeah.
But the universe gives us a counterbalance here.
Thank goodness. What is it?
Early in the month, the sun is moving through Pisces.
And for Scorpio, Pisces is a fellow water sign, so that's a harmonious angle.
It's a beautiful angle. It activates your fifth house. Now, if the sixth house is the engine room of the ship, the fifth house is the party deck.
The party deck.
It governs creativity, romance, play, joy, and children. The source describes this Pisces influence as bringing a much-needed, creative, and joyful spark to the month.
We definitely need a spark to get through the fortress building.
It is absolutely crucial. The source actually advises using this specific energy to find wellness practices that feel fun. So, tying it back to the health theme we just talked about, exercise should not just be grueling reps in a gym if that makes you miserable.
Right. If you hate it, you won't do it for 7 years anyway.
Exactly. The source specifically suggests leaning into healing through art or water-based activities.
Water-based activities make perfect sense for the Scorpio-Pisces connection. Swimming, surfing, even just taking long baths.
It's all about finding flow. So the ultimate strategy the source proposes is this. You use the Saturn discipline to create the actual container, meaning you make the time in your schedule, you protect that time, but then you use the Pisces energy to fill that container with something that actually nourishes your spirit.
Oh, I love that.
Right. You show up to the pool every Tuesday morning because of the discipline of Saturn, but you actually enjoy the feeling of the swim because of Pisces.
That makes the whole month feel so much more manageable. It's not about suffering just for the sake of having structure.
Not at all.
No, we need to pivot to the other massive event in this forecast. We've talked extensively about the daily grind and routines, but there is a major culmination happening on March 3rd.
Yes. The lunar eclipse in Leo.
Eclipses are always huge deals in astrology. They are these massive cosmic pivots, and this one is happening right in the Scorpio's 10th house.
The 10th house.
That's the house of career, public image, and reputation, right?
It is. It's how the wider world sees you. It is your legacy. And we have to remember that Leo and Scorpio are both what we call fixed signs in astrology.
Meaning they are stubborn.
Extremely stubborn. They hold on tightly to things. So having an eclipse happen here creates a massive amount of friction.
And eclipses usually imply that something is being obscured or removed. Hence the word eclipse.
Or culminated. The source actually calls this moment a career culmination. It suggests that a major project might finally reach its peak, or a professional status might dramatically shift. But then it uses this very specific phrase, eclipsing out.
Eclipsing out. That sounds ominous, like someone getting fired.
It can absolutely manifest that way in the real world, sure. But more often than not, it's an internal firing.
An internal firing.
Yeah. It implies that a specific role, a job title, or a career path you've been forcing yourself down has just entirely run its course. It is eclipsing out of your life to make the necessary room for those new Saturn responsibilities we discussed earlier.
So it's clearing the deck.
Exactly, because you cannot step into a new level of true authority if you are still desperately holding on to old, outdated roles that you have clearly outgrown.
Speaking of authority, the source has some very pointed guidance on that exact word. It says Scorpios are stepping into a new level of authority, but Scorpios have a famously complicated relationship with power, don't they?
You do?
The pop astrology stereotype is that they crave control above all else.
And that is the shadow side of Scorpio.
Yeah.
Control, manipulation, trying to force specific outcomes simply because they are deeply afraid of being vulnerable.
Right.
But this March forecast is heavily inviting Scorpios to evolve past that shadow. The source gives a definition of power here that I genuinely think is the key to unlocking the entire month.
What does it say?
It says, true power comes from self-mastery, not control over others.
True power comes from self-mastery. That circles right back to the 6th house again.
It connects absolutely everything. Think about it practically. If you are a tyrant boss who just yells at everyone to get things done, that is not actual power. That is just fear and insecurity disguised as power.
Exactly.
But if you are the architect, someone who has mastered their own daily schedule, their own physical health, their own emotional reactivity, you naturally command respect from the room. You don't ever have to demand it.
So the architect doesn't force the bricks to stay in place by yelling at them. The architect designs a structure that is so sound, so perfectly balanced that the bricks stay in place naturally because it's the only logical place for them to be.
That is a phenomenal analogy. And that is the exact shift the source is pointing to. The eclipse in the 10th house might strip away a fancy job title where you were relying on fake power or status.
Yeah.
And it does that to force you to rely on the real power you are currently building in the engine room of your daily life.
Man, that is a lot to process for 1 month. It really frames March 2026 not as a month of, getting stuff or achieving external markers, but of fundamentally becoming someone new.
It is an ontological shift. It is a complete change in your state of being. And the synthesis of this entire month, according to the source, really boils down to finding the magic in the mundane.
Magic in the mundane. It sounds beautiful, but let's be real, it is incredibly hard to find magic when you are stuck in rush hour traffic or doing your taxes.
It is incredibly hard. But the source argues that the mundane is actually the only place magic truly lives.
Really?
Yes. We always look for magic in escape. We look for it in vacations or fantasies or winning the lottery. But this source is directly telling Scorpio, no. The magic is in your Tuesday morning calendar. The magic is in your hydration routine.
Because it builds the foundation.
Because, and this is the ultimate why that connects back to the listener, by actively mastering your schedule and your health, you are freeing up massive amounts of energy.
Freeing up energy for what, exactly?
For the deep transformative work you were actually born to do. That is the ultimate promise of this source material. If you are constantly exhausted, constantly reacting to daily chaos, you have zero bandwidth left for your actual soul's purpose.
You're just putting out fire.
Exactly. You are organizing your life right now so that your precious energy isn't just leaked away on nonsense.
That is such a powerful motivation. It completely flips the script. It's not clean your room because society says you should. It's clean your room so you finally have the physical and mental space to paint your masterpiece.
That's exactly it.
The source also provides a very specific affirmation to use throughout the month. And I want to read this, but I want to read it with all the context we have just built over the last 15 minutes. Because it's not just fluffy words anymore.
Let's hear it.
It goes like this. I master my daily life to serve my highest purpose. I am disciplined, I am healthy, and I am divinely guided.
I love that last part. Divinely guided. It perfectly touches on the Neptune influence we talked about. It acknowledges that, yes, you are doing the hard work of building the fortress with discipline, but you are doing it with an ear constantly tuned to the spirit. You are open to guidance.
As we wrap up this deep dive into March 2026 for Scorpio, it clearly feels like a massively pivotal month. But I want to just be completely real with the listeners for a second. This does not sound easy.
No.
This sounds like the exact kind of month where halfway through you might just want to throw your hands up and quit.
It absolutely does. Saturn transits are almost rarely fun in the traditional sense of the word. They are heavy, they require grit, and then when you add Neptune transits, which can be deeply confusing and fog-inducing, the combination can literally feel like trudging through thick mud in the dark.
Yeah.
But the reward at the end of that trudging is durability.
Durability.
If you actually do this work, if you face the potential burnout, restructure the mundane habits, and willingly release the old ego attachments during that Leo eclipse, you come out the other side with a life that actually functions. You aren't just barely surviving the week anymore. You are fully inhabiting a structure that is perfectly designed for you, by you.
So for all the Scorpios tuning in, I guess it's time to grab your hard hats. But maybe, like we said earlier, just make sure the hard hat fits comfortably. And make sure you're wearing it because you actually want to build the specific thing, not just because you feel like you have to.
And please don't forget to take the hard hat off and go for a swim every once in a while. The Pisces energy is there for a reason.
Great advice. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you go about your week. We talked about that 7-year Saturn timeline earlier, and it has really stuck with me.
It is the ultimate litmus test for everything you do this month.
It really is. So here is the question for you to explore on your own. If you honestly look at your current habits, the things you actually did today, the way you ate, the way you worked, the specific way you spoke to yourself in your own head, which of those habits could you honestly, happily sustain for the next 7 years?
That's tough.
And more importantly, which ones are just cluttering up your fortress of efficiency, just waiting to crumble under the pressure?
That is the defining question of the month.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.